Load Cantina Cast Patreon content.
Hello, Patreon folk. Hello, Jonesy.
Hey there, Patreon members. Hello, Mr. Padilla. Man, as much as I love our intro for Patreon, and I'm really proud of it, it still has the 10-year logo. And of course, today is the 12th anniversary of Cantina Cast. And I'm like, man, I know I really need to go redo that intro, but I just really don't want to.
Yeah, it does. I think and not only that, but like I think we found at least in my opinion, I think we found a better voice to use for like the speaking part of it. So I'd like to record that over. But yeah, that logo is kind of sticking out. And that has the weird S still, right?
No, I think that's because it was a totally different logo. Well, it was the 10, so it didn't have the regular one.
Well, because when I created the 10, I just copy and pasted. I don't think I ever cleaned that up.
Well, now you're going to give me another
again. All right, here we go.
We're going to give me another complex.
But we're going to run it again.
Yeah, but again,
the
part that's like special to me. Actually, I've got it right here in front of me. No, because I've actually got my cup here.
Okay.
So it's
so yeah, you're right. We didn't carry that over.
The whole 10 is kind of white in that regard.
Yeah.
Although the Chicago one though, which is on the other side,
that one
definitely has the little block
womp womp
on the S. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. See, nobody cares about this stuff but us, and I think most people would agree. I care for $1.
Yeah. But what's so special and why I get so it's a lot of work to do those video intros, but it was also the first one where I actually had a vision for something, and I am not a super creative person, by the way. I had a vision for it. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and for the most part, like I accomplished exactly what I set out to do, which was one of the first times. And as a creator, anytime you have that kind of moment where you achieve what you had in mind, it's a pretty special moment. And I think it might be the only moment I've ever had where I've actually done that. So it's really special to me.
Well, and I remember you telling me about it too. This is not the show. Hey, we're going to get to the Skeleton Crew in just a second. But I remember when you told me, you were like describing it. You're like, yeah, and then we're going to have like, there's going to be like this to text, and it's going to come on there, and it's going to flip around and do like.
The idea was like a robot that was kind of rebooting, or they would have a dialogue and things like that, like a HUD and heads up display. Yeah.
But like there was so much I had no freaking clue what you were talking about.
This is most conversations between the two of us.
You were like so passionate. I'm like, do it, dude. Like, it sounds awesome. You seem super excited about it. But yeah, I was pretty happy when the final product was like, holy crap, this is awesome. Then we, now it looks, now there's some things that we probably want to fix on it. But
we have sufficiently driven it into the ground. So,
all right.
But it still looks great. But yeah, it's got the 10-year logo. So, and again, I've lost some of the files, which is part of why I haven't gone back and redone it.
Now the truth starts to surface.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality is when you change computers and stuff like that, sometimes some things you don't. I didn't have as much of a system. You still using the Cantina Cast storage system of way of doing things, which is it's like disorganized chaos. It's pretty rough. Yeah. So we had to improve some things.
Mike, but
yeah.
Well, hey, let's say thank you first to all of our Patreon members for all of your continued support, especially the new people who we got some new folks that joined here recently.
Yeah, Riley and Alex, thank you so much for signing up and for all of your contributions so far, especially Mike, Lauren, Dante, Risk, Justin, Jackson, Chuckman, Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh, Jacob, Steve, Reader Reborn. I love that this list is getting longer, but I'm gonna have to do like diaphragm exercises to make sure I can say it all in one breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then Delusions of Grandeur, our tier members, of course, Rod, CJ, and of course, welcome Alex again to that as well. Looking forward to Mando season 3 coming up this weekend.
Yeah, Alex will be here. He's already signed up. This is, for anybody that doesn't know, he's my brother, so I'm just throwing it out there. You never know.
Stuff's gonna get real weird,
real personal, real fast. No, he and I, both of my brothers, we all have an incredible relationship, very close, and we all love Star Wars to death. Like Alex can quote all day long, and my younger brother can quote all day long, but he's a prequels kid, so he constantly hits me with all kinds of Anakin quotes, and I mean, just at the weirdest, most random moments, they both will throw these things down at me just to get under my skin. and then they start going into quotes. They start talking in quotes, and it's like so annoying. But all this I'm sure, will surface here. If not this Sunday, then very soon. But no, thanks. I'm looking forward to him coming on the show and being part of the top 3 Mando moments of season 3.
Pretty
top
exciting
3
stuff.
Top 3 moments of Mando season 3. That's what I want to say.
There you go. Yeah. So that's going to be Sunday at 10 o'clock. So we hope you tune into that. If you were listening to this on the audio stream, we'll do that live, of course, if you're part of the Now. This is the way and above, not Now for the Tribe, but this is the way and above. You'll get to see the video of that. Otherwise, you'll get to listen to us.
Yep.
Which is great for us. We love talking to you.
Yes, we do. We really do.
Let's talk some Skeleton Crew. Let's do this.
Skeleto Crew. Okay, so if you are wondering what this show is about, you're in good company because Jonesy doesn't know either. We're going
Wait, not this show, but Skeleton Crew. Not this show. You might be wondering that right now anyway, but I know what this show is about.
This show is about the Skeleton Crew. But
I don't know what Skeleton Crew is about.
Well, you don't know, and you don't really, we don't know. So here's what I'm going to do. This will be a visual one. So for anybody that's listening to the audio one, we'll try to do our best to kind of
we'll do our audio
commentary.
description. Yeah, we'll do our audio description option. Turning it on now.
Turn it on. So I've got a little presentation. There you go. A little presentation here that I'm going to pull up. So the idea here was to we haven't really had a chance to talk about Skeleton Crew, right? We talked a little bit about it when it was announced, and we mentioned a couple things here and there. I know we covered it during our Star Wars Celebration coverage. One of those days we got a little bit into it, but I think we had said at some point we'll come back and break down in more detail some of the stuff that was announced or discussed, some of the stuff that was shown, and then particularly there was a trailer. I'm going to call it a trailer. I don't know.
It was a teaser. Yeah, a teaser trailer.
Teaser
I think
probably fair. Yeah.
But yeah,
So there was a
Celebration
teaser,
only.
Right. Teaser that was released for people that were in attendance in that room, and it was leaked. And I tried that whole weekend or the 3-4 days to find a longer version of this, and I just simply could not. The version that I found has like 1, maybe 2 extra images. Like there's one version that's out there that's leaked, and it has up until they show this kind of alien, and then it just cuts off. The one that we're going to show tonight, or at least the pictures that we're going to show of it tonight, have 2 more images that are on at the end of that, but it's still not the full thing. Like it feels like they're missing probably a good another 5-10 seconds of this teaser thing.
It seems like this is about 40-ish seconds long, and again, it ends abruptly. So the beginning we know we're catching, but it is ended abruptly, so we don't know how much longer, if it went on for a full minute or what.
Right. But for anybody that doesn't know, this was something that was okay. So this is the official, what is it? The short description or whatever from Star Wars. Skeleton Crew follows the journey of 4 kids who make a mysterious discovery on their seemingly safe home planet, then get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. Finding their way home and meeting unlikely allies and enemies will be a greater adventure than they ever imagined. So again, this is the 80s Amblin movie, Goonies, Stranger Things, and space kind of story, right? We know it's going to revolve around 4 kids. We'll talk about the kids here in a little bit. Jude Law's been brought into this. We know he's now officially, they've mentioned that he's a Jedi, so yet someone else has survived Order 66. And then there's a couple of other characters that we'll see in the trailer here that haven't been really announced, and we don't know who they are or what their kind of role. But we're going to try to just piece as much of this as we can and kind of just talk about what we potentially could be looking at or hoping to see with this one. So here's the first image. So what stands out first off is one of the characters. So one of the boys, Robert Timothy Smith, who's the boy on the far left, right? If you're looking at the screen here,
right.
He's playing an Ortolan, which is like the Max Rebo race.
Right. And
so when you see him, he's got, I didn't know this when at first I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but he's got this like protruding, like, I don't know what the heck that thing is that's sticking out there. I think that's a prosthetic for this costume, right?
Yeah, he's got like a head type of unit or something on that's around his ears, and it comes around the front of his face to, I guess, simulate the trunk. And again, in the trailer, in the teaser itself, you do see the finished Ortolan. So you do see that's like kind of a short, childlike trunk, right? So he's, much younger, of course, but yeah, definitely an alien race here. And some of the scenes we're getting are behind the scenes, which this one clearly is.
Yeah, and there's a better picture of this a little bit later. I think on the next slide or the next one we'll show here that you can see him in clear like view and even all the stuff that he's kind of wearing on there. So that is Robert Timothy Smith. So some kind of alien boy, friend of these groups. We don't know exactly how they came together. And then the next kid over, so this is Ravi, and I'm gonna screw all these names up because I don't know who they are right now. But 4 years from now, this will be no problem. But
Right.
Ravi Cabot Conyers? Conyers?
Right.
Sure. That's the curly haired boy. And we'll see him again in just a little bit. The next girl, I believe, is Kyrian Crater, and she's got a visor. I want to come back to that in just a little bit. 'Cause
Right.
there's something
White, white hair and a visor. Yeah.
Yep. And then the oldest, what I'm presumably like is the oldest kid or the oldest person, is the last girl, and that is Ryan Kira Armstrong. And I think her name is Gwen. There's a rumor that she's also Jude Law's daughter. Now, that's a pure rumor. It's not even anything official. We don't know anything about this stuff, but
Right.
I saw that one out there and I thought, okay, maybe it's worth at least mentioning. So, Jude Law's a Jedi. He's got a kid. So, and that actually, what do you think about that? Like, if the Jedi Order's over, let's just presume that this is his daughter. Like, how does he get there? Do you think it's one of these scenarios where he's like, well, the Jedi Order's gone and a man's got needs, so or do you think like this was still something that he was struggling to come to grips with, or it was a happy accident, or maybe it's just adopted daughter? I don't know. There's a couple of ways this could possibly go if that rumor holds true.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sold on it entirely because, again, if you're a Jedi after Order 66, and granted, this is a number of years after that. So all of the original trilogy, again, to kind of rebaseline, this is all roughly 10 years after Order 66 or something, or no, 30 years after.
Yeah.
So he would have been a really young. So that's why I kind of question that he's a Jedi, because is he a Jedi in today's terms, or he was a former Jedi Padawan or something like that?
I think
or even
so.
young?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think officially he is a Jedi, and so if he is, then so Jedi is a general term. He's not a Jedi Knight. He's not a Jedi Master. He's just a Jedi.
Okay.
Which I guess you could probably say he would have to have been a Padawan during Order 6, similar to Kanan, or similar to Grogu. No,
Sure.
or similar to other young Padawans. That's the only way his age matches, like it lines up, it tracks, right? But
Yeah,
he
with
was
his
not a
biological
knight. There's
age.
no way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as that's concerned, it seems to be a little bit messy. I don't know that we need him to be a dad in this. I mean, that line in Star Wars always feels great, but I think does it detract from the story a little bit. But how does it get there if it's true? Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, especially if he was young at the time, and maybe when you grow up and you go through adolescence and everything, you're going to just say, okay, well, the Jedi are never coming back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to live a normal life. And maybe he got married and maybe had a family or had a daughter, and then things really went to, Empire came around or whatever it might have been, and completely obliterated that, because that's what the Empire does. They find Force sensitives. Maybe they stole a kid. Maybe the mom died or whatever it might have been.
Right,
There's a
right.
whole lot of paths you can do to get there.
Yeah. I actually kind of like the idea. I mean, again, there's no real teeth in any of this, but the idea that somebody was a Padawan, they were on that path, and now that there is no order, yeah, I mean, I can see somebody be like, well, I'm going to try to do my best here to live a normal life, and maybe that does mean I go find someone to, coop up with, and we have a kid and try to raise.
Well,
a child.
it's the other idea, though, of also what is his purpose in life now? Is it to be a Jedi, or is it one of these stories that he's kind of given up on that life and he's being dragged back into it, a sense of responsibility, very much like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and kind of more in that story beat, if that story beat, if you will. So that might be another way of saying, well, he, forgot it, stepped away, and then a tragedy happened, so he's definitely withdrawn from all of it. And now he's getting brought back into the fight in a very different way, in a very different era, with what these kids need whenever he stumbles over them, or maybe he's approached to find them, whatever that, however they actually get synced up here.
Yeah, I like that idea. In fact, that kind of plays well with the slide that we have a little bit later, talking where we got from Empire Magazine, which we mentioned on tonight's Waystation episode. There was an article that was exclusive about Skeleton Crew, and we pulled a lot of the content from that. So we'll come back then here in a little bit, because Jude Law is talking about his character. There may be some insight into kind of what you're talking about just right now. So
Excellent.
okay, let's go to the next one here, and I think this is the one that's got the picture of so you can see here the kid there. What was his name again? Robert Timothy Smith,
Right.
the Orderland. You can see his little get up there on his face, and then there's the girl with the visor and the blonde hair. Now I don't know if it's this one or it's. Hold on, I'm gonna go one slide over.
Yeah, there's one later where she has the visor like click down over her face really quickly.
Okay, so that one is on the trailer. It's in the
Yeah,
trailer.
that's in the trailer, right?
All right, so I'll just talk about it now. So I was when they showed this, I was like, "Oh, cool! She's got a visor, right? Geordie LaForge, or whatever it is, some Lobot in reverse. I don't know, some kind of technical piece on their machine that makes her lets her see." But then I was actually playing SWTOR, and there's a race in the Old Republic called a Mira Luca, and I can't remember if they ever made it out beyond that. Honestly, if they ever showed up anywhere beyond Knights of the Old Republic. Do you remember these guys? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like,
yeah, they showed up.
They
They actually showed up in the Jedi of the Republic Mace Windu comic book.
Oh Lord,
back
really?
in 2017. Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking, well, maybe this is our first like canon appearance of a Mira Luca. Like they're born without eyes, and I should have done the research. Hopefully you did, or maybe you didn't, but I don't remember in SWTOR. I just know they couldn't see without the visors, and when they had them off, they looked like their eyes were just gone, like there was nothing there. And in the trailer, and we're not going to get a good picture of it because the resolution's so low, but when you're watching it in full motion, it does look like she has no eyeballs. So that could be, maybe she was born that way. There's nothing more than that, but it does very much look like a Mira Luca race to me.
I agree. I mean, and when we get to that image, her eyes it's almost like a little bit red and shadowed. And again, it goes down so quickly, it's really difficult to freeze frame it and get a really high res look at it. But I like the idea of bringing this to screen. The Mira Luca also showed up, I believe, in I think it may have been the Darth Vader comic more recently when they go to Mon Cala, and the 10th brother, I think, may have killed that specific character or one of the characters there or something like that. So again,
so
race,
this wouldn't be the first time that it's been brought into canon.
Yeah, exactly. But I think definitely first time on screen that we're aware of. And again, what's the context within it? And again, maybe learning a little bit more about what it is, because this is something that's going to be totally new to most people. And quite honestly, even just from if you were to go out there and research or search this, you're not going to find a lot of information about it, because I think it originally debuted, like you said, I think it was actually back in like Tales of the Jedi back in the mid 90s is when this race first surfaced. So again, way back in time, not a whole lot of detail about it, but I like it. Something new, something different, something a little bit fresh for us, to be able to bring in a new, just a little new flavor too, as a different type of character coming in with a different perspective. So I like the idea of this, and that it gives the group a bit of a dynamic feel, even though they're all humanoid. Well, except the Orderline, I guess. I keep looking at Robert Timothy Smith and just thinking he's a kid with like a weird, head unit. He's just got braces or something. But
Right.
But no, the reality is they do have one that's non-human, but the others are all humanoid, of course. So something unique about that character. I like that, and there's a different dynamic because there's a lot of different ways you can play with that and go with that throughout the series.
So as far as what's happening in the scene, it's hard to tell. Like this is a behind the scenes. Clearly, it's a BTS since we can see, all that stuff. And Jude Law looks to be maybe out of character. Although the other kid there, what's his name, Ravi Cabot Conyers,
right?
He looks like he's in character. Like he seems upset or something. He's kind of very hyper focused on something there.
Yeah, the other kids have a very straight face at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But with this image and then some of the other ones, when you kind of couple them together, it does feel like there's going to be some component of, like a workshop. Like they're going in, they're building something to do something, right? Like
sounds like a montage.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, we can only hope that there's going to be some kind of montage where they rebuild an engine and put it back in there so that he can win the girl over. But there's definitely something happening there. Again, it could be something like rebuilding a spaceship of some sort, or they're putting together a droid. Maybe, I don't know. There's been no mention of a droid at all in any of this, which I technically they could still do CGI and insert it here or there or whatever. But
right.
The other part of this is I want to talk just quickly on Jude Law's look. Like he does not look like a Jedi, and he doesn't even look like he looks like a bum. He looks like a hobo. Like.
Well,
to your point, it looks like
a smuggler of sorts, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe a smuggler, right? A dirty con man. You look at him here; he's got like a 5 o'clock shadow. His clothes look maybe dirty or tattered. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the lighting.
Big long overcoat, yeah, definitely. But I mean, definitely seems like a work jacket, kind of like what we've seen Han Solo wear and some other smugglers. Again, just a long 3/4 length coat. Maybe full length here. And
this all plays into, again, when he's talking about his character a little bit later, this definitely aligns with some of the stuff that we're talking about and seeing here. Now, this is, to me, clearly, the behind the scenes. You've got
Right.
the kids are laughing, Jude Law is laughing. Looks like they're having just a good time. But they do appear to be on this ship that we're going to see a little bit later. It's the same ship that we've got in our background, the one that's been teased and talked about.
Right.
So I don't know if there's anything else in the ship. It looks old. Like it doesn't. Well, let me take that back. It looks like it doesn't look like First Order type ship, right? The design. Right. It looks more like 77 Star Wars tech, like that 70s tech aesthetic.
Yeah, it's gonna still have that aesthetic and that vibe, right?
Mm-hmm. But even some of the stuff that we saw, like in the Clone Wars, in like the prequel trilogies, seemed a little bit like slim, like sleeker lines, more new design. Where this does feel more in line with, post the Clone Wars Empire era kind of ship. Big buttons, a lot of levers and knobs and stuff like that. So, okay, let's go to.
Sorry, there was noise going on in the background. Yeah, no, I think also the cockpit is a little bit more open there too, though. So it does seem like it has some space around this ship. So I'm really curious to see what the overall design is, just from all angles, and be able to see it not just from the backside like we do in the concept art.
Mm. Again, so this one does feel, this is another behind the scenes, since we don't have a lot of, the CGI is not there or whatever. I guess it would be CGI, but they do appear to be in character. Like Jude Law his character looks pretty serious. They seem to have this kind of like a tapestry.
Yeah.
I don't know what
couldn't resist. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no, it looks like a tapestry. It looks like, again, we know the premise of the show, like you read at the start, is they have found something, right? There's some clue or some secret that initiates this quest or initiates this this path of discovery. Yeah, the call to action. So, there's definitely something. And so I like it. It's uncovering the secrets of the past or trying to interpret. And it's this journey and this quest, right? This treasure map of sorts. I really like that kind of idea within Star Wars, because we had a little bit of a flavor of that in Bad Batch, right? With Fee and kind of the archaeological aspect of it. So I'd like to bring some of that back. We had a little bit of it with Rebels too, with World Between Worlds.
Yeah,
just this mysterious map reading of interpreting, hieroglyphic type stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I like the idea that we've got this really ancient artifact here that we've got to somehow make sense of.
And it's always a weird thing with Star Wars, because there used to be a time when, there were no wheels in Star Wars and nothing was written down in Star Wars, and there were no buttons in Star Wars. And I think we've all, those of us that have matured, zippers, those of us that have matured over time and can understand that the reality is that those things probably are there, even because it's a very large galaxy, without necessarily encroaching on the fabric of Star Wars, no pun intended. But this one, similar to like we saw in Rebels, there was the ancient tablets. They were carved on stone. If you look at this, it does look like this is kind of like a star map. Again, this is me interpreting this the best I can, but the bottom down here in the corner, bottom right-hand corner, you can't really see it probably very well here, but it's kind of like a star map, like what we're used to seeing today in star maps, whether they're the World Between World 3-dimensional type things, or just simply something thrown up on a piece of glass or whatever it is. And then underneath there, does this look like some old writing, old Sith language, or old Jedi writings of some sort? Who knows what that is? And then it looks like there's pictographs. It almost looks like people. Like I see feet. Like we're looking at this upside down, but it almost looks like there's like figures walking around.
The shape looks like Captain Caveman.
Okay, maybe it's Captain Caveman. That's certainly an option. But maybe it is a treasure map. I hate to say it. It sounds so cliche, but if they're doing Goonies in space, and they're going to go for, quote, the rich stuff, which if you watch the Goonies, that's what they were going after, right? The rich stuff. It could be as simple as this. And if you got somebody like a Jude Law character who's, maybe out, dirty car salesman, or just not always on the up and up, hiding in the shadows. Maybe he's got an interest of like helping, quote, these kids out with ulterior motives at some point, taking the riches from these kids and running off. Because he's, quote, a Jedi, but we don't know where he's at, mentally, where his headspace is at. He could be, well beyond that. He may still have the Force abilities and all that, but he's not really, on the up and up and law-abiding citizen in any way.
Right. And conversely, this could be where, and some of what they're saying maybe leads to maybe some of this conclusion here. The kids have found something. They've inadvertently stepped into this world. Mm-hmm. And then you have Jude Law, who's like, man, like something, he gets a sense of it. Like Is it something like what Quinlan Voss has? Maybe he's got a special force power
Oh
and
yeah,
touches it.
that'd
He
be cool.
could. That would be kind of neat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it was called. I always say telekinesis. That is not right.
Psycho or
Yes, the
psychometry.
psychometry. Thank you. Very nicely done. Yeah, something like that, or maybe he just recognizes it. Like, no, there's some language in here that I can interpret some of it, but I can't interpret all of it. And it gets him reinvested and says, no, you guys really stumbled on something here. We need to be able to chase this down. While I try to get you guys home, but we've got like this is really urgent. Like something in this matters, right? And so I like the idea. It would be really cool if we had psychometry go into live action Star Wars.
Yeah, that
Just
would
how
be
cool would that be? I mean, just the visual aspect of that alone would be so neat. And I would love for it to be Quinlan Voss, but just to have it introduced in general, even if it's just I'm not really good at it, but I get a little glimpse of it, I think would be absolutely perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get to some of those quotes here from the Empire magazine in just one second. But I want to show the next the next image from Star Wars Celebration. This is the ship. I think
Right.
we've all seen this enough, and this is concept art at this point. I think the final product we see that a little bit later, but again, it's in the trailer and the teaser or whatever it is, and it's kind of blurry and hard to see, so you can't really judge it. But it looks pretty spot on.
Yeah, lighting and everything is very ET reminiscent
Oh,
vibe
man.
wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like lifted right off of ET
Right.
in a lot of ways. So this is one of the images that was shown at Celebration where you've got Jude Law, and this is what I'm talking about. Like he looks like a bum. He looks like a hobo. Look at his.
But these
His
almost
jackets?
look like Jedi robes, though, don't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I'm
with the
saying.
tunic underneath and a hood and
Yeah.
jacket, or the
Well,
the
this
robe.
this goes back to the whole Kenobi debate you and I had. Like, this is what people just wear, so I'll kind of go with that. That yes, he looks like a Jedi, but that's probably just kind of a standard uniform look for people at this time. Who knows? But I mean,
Right.
he's got the hood as well, which is again dead giveaway in my head as far
Yeah.
as
Definitely look like he's hiding and trying to avoid attention in some ways,
Mhm.
though.
Yep. He almost kind of looks like Michael Keaton here, a younger Michael Keaton. Here's a really close-up picture of Jude Law. You've got the characters in the background who are in costume because you can see what's his face back there, the Odalon back there. And you can
Right.
see his
Robert
whole-
Timothy Smith is in full character with the CGI, right?
And they're blurred. It's like they're really blurred. But look at you see this here. That looks like a Rhodian to me. Do you see that?
I don't know what you're pointing at, so I
Oh,
can't
yeah,
tell.
my mouse isn't showing up.
Right.
So if you look, maybe. Okay, so when I look
Oh,
at
you
this,
mean just over his right shoulder?
his right shoulder, yeah, it looks like a Rhodian moving from left to right,
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
like a Rhodian kid.
Yeah, and again, for those listening, this is the image where you have Jude Law front and center. The kids are in the background; they're blurred. But you've also got the talking devices that come out, like with Jabba's palace, that comes Binky or whatever. Those types
Right.
of things are all around him, and he's smiling at the camera. This is one of the publicity shots. Of course, I think it was in a magazine. He's got his jacket on and a green scarf, not looking like a Jedi at all. Looking more like, I don't know, like he's gonna go and rob Kevin during Home Alone or something.
Yeah, in Aspen.
In Aspen.
So, yeah, what's up? I don't remember the name of those talking droid.
I can't remember
balls,
either.
Globes things.
Yeah, they were
but-
in Mandalorian as well.
Yeah, but they must be at someone's door. Then this looks like a moon planet, like in the background. It looks kind of craterous and
Right.
there's not. It's all gray. You got the skyline is just stars in the background there. So maybe it's some kind of moon that they've come up to some door. Because I mean, they wouldn't show these things unless it was part of the story. And the only thing that we know these things do is they're like door knockers. They're just
Right.
glorified.
It's just an intercom system, basically, or a gateway to talk. But again, he's smiling, which is he just being a smart aleck in this regard, or why is he smiling?
Yeah, I don't
There's no
know.
smiling in Star Wars.
He's smirking.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, the ring. That's what I was trying. They're just glorified ring cameras. Is what they are in Star Wars.
Yeah,
You can
there you
almost
go.
see, like in the back there, just above. So in between right above the kids and the left there, you can almost see like what looks to be like a city or another homestead of some sort. So maybe this is just some kind of home that they're visiting. Some little
Yeah, more of a
Town.
desert or something like that. It just looks like a
yeah.
moon. Yeah.
But I definitely think they took this shot for publicity. Although if they're showing these things, like I said, they're probably going to be in
There'll be
the
some
television
level
series
of
or
it.
something.
Right.
Okay, so here we come to the first one of the first quotes from the Empire article, and this is Jude Law talking about what he was trying to do with his character. He says, "What I wanted to imbue was the humor and the sardonic nature of Solo." He's talking about Han Solo.
Right.
The slight tone of, "Oh, this is all rubbish. What am I doing here?" I think that's all a very Star Wars thing. The lovely irony that someone is in it, a little throwaway about the whole thing. So someone in it is a little throwaway about the whole thing. So they're just kind of like, eh, right?
Right.
So if you got the flavor of Han Solo and he's really not sure why he wants to be there, but he is, he's the reluctant hero, the person that was kind of dragged in the last minute, they somehow, I don't know, kindled the flame of good in him that has always been there. Presumably if he was a Padawan, that maybe he's suppressed all of that, but yet something called him and he's reluctantly going through with it. And, he's going to have, and there's a lot of cliches here, but eventually he's going to come out as being this like heroic character in the end. That's kind of how I'm reading this.
It's the hero's journey to an extent, right? The call to action, you have the reluctant hero. They don't want to get involved. They know what the right thing to do is, but they're jaded for whatever reason. And there's something that has to get them to look beyond themselves to come back and do it. And so that's what Jude Law is saying here. It's very much the Han Solo way of doing maybe a Heart of Gold.
Right.
This is what Star Wars is kind of built around, though. So it makes sense that we go back to this well, especially when you see young people who are in need of guidance and in need of maybe saving in some ways as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so here's the other part of this quote. Now, I have at the bottom right-hand corner, complicated. This is pulled from a different part. There was a lot of other stuff that was being said, but he was talking about his character as being complicated. So not really straightforward. There's more to him than, we're going to see early on. But he's talking about the kids. He says they need guidance, but they're vulnerable. Wink, 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 Law says. And so throughout, the people they meet, you question all of them. And he's talking about questioning himself, his character as well. Is my character nice? Is he not? You just want them to be all right and get them back home. So he's talking about the kids. But if you know John and Chris's work, you'll know that the kids aren't always safe.
Right.
So he's kind of teasing, maybe alluding that this character may have his own self-interest, may not necessarily be looking out for the kids. And that's kind of what I'm picking up. Early on, this is probably the case. But again, I like what you said, the Heart of Gold that we all had with Solo, at some point that he can't snuff that out. And so I think at the very end of the series or whatever, he will kind of come around and be the good person that he once was, through the experience of being with the kids is what I would hope.
And he's talking about what it means to be youthful and to trust kind of openly, right? And trust without much thought of consequence. And learning in the galaxy that you can't trust everyone. This is like what Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi, this is really feeling a little bit of a Obi-Wan Kenobi vibe in many different ways. And we'll have to see how similar they might be overall story. Clearly, they're not going to be able to go. They're not going to go down that same path. But you're starting to get some similar beats, like how much Leia just wanted to just talk to everybody and we'll just ask them for help, and not understanding the ramifications of the situation, right?
Yeah.
And the danger that's around them, and that you can't trust just everybody. without any kind of consequence. And so, I like that this is something that's getting into this element that we will explore some of that. It's a learning for the kids, but it's also a way for this character to come back to the light, if you want to view it in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm. So here's Kathleen Kennedy kind of chiming in on Watson Ford. She said earlier on, Watson Ford sought advice from Kathleen Kennedy, not only the heads of all things Star Wars, but an Amblin veteran herself. The way Kathleen explained Amblin to us was that they never thought of those as kid movies, says Ford. So the context of this quote, which I thought was interesting, there's been a lot of talk here recently about this being a kid's show, and what she was trying to say, or what they were trying to say in this article, was that it really wasn't a kid's show. There are kids that are part of it, but if you go back and look at, The Goonies, or you look at, even Stranger Things is probably an extreme, but if you look at something like The Goonies or any of the Amblin movies that came out, they had kids that were central to it, E.T., although there were still risks, right? There was still danger that was there. It wasn't necessarily a kid's movie. And I think they're just trying to make sure that people understand that this isn't going to be a kid's show, that there is going to be, risk and consequences. And, the stakes are high, I think is what she goes on to say in this quote as well. So I think that's good. I don't know that I would have cared either way, but I think there are some people that were kind of already kind of turning this off and thinking, nah, this is probably not for me. It's going to be, Young Jedi Adventures, just live action, which is not the case at all. We're not getting something like that here.
It's all about setting the tone early on for what they're sharing. And like you said, it's not a kid's show to where you're going to have zany humor and it's going to be immature humor, immature moments and things like that. There will be elements of that because they are kids, but the scenarios and the situations, everything that they're experiencing are very real. And like you said, the dangers around them are very real. What they will encounter with pirates and everything else are going to be things that they have to navigate that have some sort of meaning and substance to them. So it will be more in the vein of, yes, it's going to be an adventure in this Goonies kind of way, but it's definitely not, young children entertainment.
Right.
So it's going to be in within the context of this more serious tonal feel to it all.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big difference there between those two.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're coming up on the end here. Let's see here. This is where they were kind of talking about the stakes. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but cool shot of the kids. They're gonna look look very spiffy here. They don't look nothing like their characters in Star Wars, which is probably a good thing.
Right.
They just happen to have kids, so all the stakes are as real as possible. The kids think they're in Andor. Occasionally, Law needed to steer the mood on set in a graver direction. This is Jude Law talking about what he was doing on set. He said, but he was setting the tone. This is really serious. We're at risk. Of course, what's wonderful about children is they believe. And the other part of this quote, and I cut it off because it was just too much. But he was talking about how at one point he got real serious on the set.
They thought that he was mad at him.
Yeah, the kids thought he was mad. Like, holy crap, what got Mr. Law all riled up, and he's really mad at us. And so they all kind of fell in line. And so when they went to shoot that particular scene, the tone had changed. And I think that's Jude Law coming at this from like, hey, we got to there's kids and we're all having fun, but at the same time we can't come at this from like a full comedy kind of thing. And, the stakes are high again. So setting that tone for the kids, and I think will then translate into the audience as well and kind of understanding what really is happening here.
But this is something I like though. So, I mean, this quote can be taken a lot of different ways because it could have just been the filming process. And then that they have fun with it and trying to get back in character could be challenging. And he's trying to make sure that, the tone is there. But I also think this actually sets into the show itself that with kids, kids have this ability to see the light in so many different scenarios and help us as adults see things that we have forgotten about. Mm-hmm. And the way viewing the world and viewing the galaxy, in ways that we no longer view it because we're jaded by experience, jaded by negative things that have happened that we've witnessed, just the environments that we've been in, whatever our upbringing was or whatever tragedy we've experienced. But I like that the kids don't always have all that baggage.
Yeah.
And I think that is a balance that these types of shows, when you do have kids, but it is serious, you still let them shine through as there is still this level of youthful enthusiasm. I think is really important for Star Wars in particular to capture. If this was a horror movie or something, that's a very different vibe. You're probably not going to necessarily want to capture, right? You're looking for something
right.
Totally different.
Yeah.
But within Star Wars, hope is always so vital to make sure that it shines through. And what better source of that than to have kids understand the reality of it and get brought down to earth. But then they always come back with this zinger back to you, well, for lack of a better word, a zinger that just gets you to think of, wow, I really have lost my way of viewing the world. Truly wonderful is the mind of a child, right? I mean, Things like that come to mind of just a very different perspective that a character like Jude Law would need as he starts to regain this confidence and kind of reintegrate with maybe who his true self really is.
That's a great point. There's something else too. Like we don't have, we're going to get into the trailer now. There's a quote in here from the Empire article, and I think it speaks to the footage that we don't have, but it's talking about Jude Law. And he says, Jude Law's character footage shown at Star Wars Celebration gave a glimpse of his mysterious, still unnamed character wearing an Obi-Wan-esque robe and seemingly using Force powers, but he teases that there's Han's DNA in the mix too. So and this is where I think this this confirmation of him being a Jedi, I think came from this specifically.
Okay.
There's a scene apparently allegedly where he does something and it's clear that he's using the Force in some way. So people have put two and two together and said, okay, he's a Force user, probably a Jedi, survive Order 66. I want to be clear, like that is pure speculation at this point. Now, nothing's been necessarily made official on that front. So, unfortunately, we don't have that footage. You're going to get the ghetto, get the ghetto footage that we got.
Right.
So this may be kind of quick because we don't really have a lot to go off of here. This isn't a trailer. They're not really giving us any kind of meat and bones about, plot synopsis or things, plot lines that are happening. There's very few quotes in here. A lot of it is just strictly footage that they're showing.
It's a lot of establishing positioning of the family, potential family environments of the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, very little actual clean ideas of what is going on, except the kids have gone missing in some ways, but also establishing where they're coming from, which is the vibe of some of these scenes we get. We kind of open in a schoolhouse of sorts. These are very reminiscent of what we do have in Mandalorian, with scenes of the New Republic and just that aesthetic. So it does feel very much at home within this Mandoverse, if you will, the Filoni verse, however you want to qualitate that.
Is there any chance that this is on Navarro?
No.
Okay. What about if it's on Navarro and all right. What about if no, I'm kidding. Okay. I just thought, I was like, ooh, what if it's Navarro that they're not going to do that. That's too on the nose. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But yeah, definitely some kids in here. They're in school. They look bored. How you wouldn't expect anything different from children. And the quote on this part of the trailer says, "Don't you ever want to do anything exciting?" So again, the call to action, the Goonies. We found a treasure map. Let's go do something exciting. This is kind of mundane, boring type thing. There's a close up here on the next slide.
And Ravi Conyers, yeah.
Yep. So Ravi Conyers' character, again, looking bored in that same kind of school. It's unclear to me, too, like if all these kids go to the same school or not. I think they probably do, or they live closer. Otherwise, it's going to be, how do you get them all together in a short period
I think at least a couple of them, maybe this Gwen character or maybe the Ravi's character there. I think those seem like there's at least one or two of them that are definitely together, if not all four of them are all in the same space, because they all seem like they're roughly the same age.
Yeah. And also, as we're kind of showing the footage now, this trailer, the way it was cut, this teaser, it's like they're leading you by the nose. Like it's almost clear, at least how it's presented, like what's happening. They could be, mixing stuff up and leading us, down the wrong path. But once they cut here, this is still under the line of don't you ever want to do anything exciting. And what I see are potentially kids running through a forest, seeking adventure of some way. Maybe this is where they come across the map or the tapestry or whatever it is, but it does look like, they're running through the forest and just having a good time as kids, as we used to do back in the day.
Right.
Before the crazy people showed up. And then this next shot. So I think this is probably the Max Rebo kid, Robert Timothy Smith's character. On the left-hand side, you can't see it. The still. We're doing still, so they can't come after us, right? But it almost looks like you can see the elephant snout kind of thing. But they're lifting up a door, what looks like a garage door, and there's a set of tools and all this stuff.
Workshop.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good point. That's more of a workshop here. So, yeah, maybe he's the whiz kid of it all. Maybe he's the one that his character is strong in those skills. Now, was it this shot here where her visor came down?
I believe it was.
I believe it was.
Yeah, when they flip to the screen, it's up and then it quickly comes down.
Yeah. So this is Kiriana Cratter's character, and Ryan Kira Armstrong's characters. And gotta get these names right. What is it? Kriana?
Why does everyone have so many names nowadays?
Oh, no.
We have to get every part of their name is in there now.
So I'm going to just call the character in the background Mira Luca, since that's what I think she is. And then the other one's Hermione going from now on. Okay.
She kind of looks like Hermione a little bit.
So Hermione is
but we think this might be Gwen that they're calling throughout this trailer, right?
Oh, we'll call her Gwen. No, that's a good point. That's not funny, but we'll call her Gwen. So that's Gwen, allegedly her character there. They look like she's in school uniforms. You can't see it again in the image, but when she turns around, it looks like they may have just gotten, and they both are similar wearing, like if you see, they've got the
white collar
shirt,
red vest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it could be like right after school or whatever, but this is maybe them getting called and call to action as well. They're all kind of coming together here. But yeah, this is the scene where her visor, I think, is up and it kind of comes down. And now this is, So this is an interesting shot. Like this seems like it was lifted right out of like E.T., like
Right.
circa 81, right? Or 80, whenever that movie came out. 81? 81.
Right.
And because it looks like someone's driving a station wagon from the 70s down a suburban area town or suburban area of a town with, the lights are on. It looks like a 2-story home, well-built home kind of thing. I'm sure this is not what that is, but it evokes all that imagery for me and the feelings of that. But this is essentially, I guess, or potentially Gwen's father, I guess, or somebody coming home after work late at night, because you put this together with the next scene, which I think is him walking in. And this is where he says, Gwen, you'd better be studying. So it looks like he's coming home. The lights are out. He's coming. It's definitely dark in the background. You can see the doorway right there. So I guess this is Gwen's dad, maybe?
Kind of seems like it. What's interesting, we see him in a few other frames too, and he's got these really big glasses, like just reading glasses. It really do feel like they were from the 70s or 80s. So again, all of the imagery with it is really calling. When they mentioned Amblin, even if you didn't know what Amblin was, and we told you E.T.
Right.
or Goonies, like just visually, you would snap right into it, because this is so spot on, like almost an homage to all of to those films and that imagery, that this is just capturing all of those notes.
Yeah, and I think they're gone. She's gone at this point. So during the day, they all got together. They took off. He's coming home. She's not there. She should be studying. We get a better image.
Hold on. There was a really important moment. We have staircase with no handrail.
Oh,
and it's not
that's true.
Imperial.
It's
Well,
not Imperial.
as far as we know.
Right. He could be ex-Imperial and, trying to live a normal, legit life of some sort.
Right, with no handrail.
But the funny thing is, like even the architecture, I hate to beat this dead horse, but like the staircase itself, it looks like the staircase from the Brady Bunch, which was like in the 70s, right? 60s, 70s.
It does.
The architecture and like the colors, the tones.
Yeah,
like
the paneling on the walls. Yeah.
Yeah, the paneling on the walls. This is what's his face's mom would be like right at home here.
Edie, yeah.
Edie, right? From Andor. Cyril's mother. This is a quick shot, and you really can't make out what's kind of happening here, but I think this is a continuation shot. I think in my head this might be the parents now, because it feels like this is the same force. There are two figures that are running through here, and in my head it's like, okay, maybe the parents found out they're on the trail now. They're kind of following the footsteps or following the trail that the kids left, but now it's dark, and so they're running through. And I think this shot is someone stepping through like a puddle of water, late at night, in the same forest that we probably saw here just a little while ago. Same thing again. This is a shot that's kind of further away. That figure in the background is one of the characters, or two characters that are running again through that forest. And then we cut back over to the dad, who's saying Gwen, and you can see the bed in the foreground. There's nobody in the bed, so she took off.
Right.
I was really trying to make out the toys or whatever the heck that stuff is in the right hand corner, right hand side, but
no dice, huh?
No dice. Too blurry. I mean, the resolution on this has got to be like 320 or 640 or something.
Oh yeah, this is and for those listening, this is basically cell phone shot of a screen at Celebration with people framed all around you, and doesn't stay in focus half the time.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, but that's what we're here for.
Hey, and we get a familiar the pirate snub fighter, as Lego likes to call this ship. So
really?
That's what they call it. So this is basically Vane's ship that we see in Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. That was Vane's ship. That's awesome.
Well, presumably it looks like the same style, that kind of squarish or rectangular looking with the little wings in the back with the propulsion.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see him in just a little bit, Vane.
Right.
Now in the background in this scene, you can clearly hear a child scream dad. So, alluding to the fact that maybe they didn't leave on their own accord, or they left and were scared, or, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel like they just took off and did it on their own. If someone's screaming dad, or I don't know, it's hard to.
It definitely suggests that they stepped into something they weren't prepared to, they being the kids, and perhaps have been whisked away on an adventure that they really did not intend on truly setting forth on.
Yeah, and this is that same shot, so it's just a continuation of it, and it's kind of, you got, I guess, presumably Vane's ship flying really low over a crater or moon of some sort, and then when it pulls back, you can kind of see there's a massive planet. Well, it's hard to tell with scale, but there's a planet in the horizon there as this thing's kind of floating over the moon.
Right.
Really no context here. This is just a quick shot of the kids, all 4 of them. We get to see all those CGI here finally in the Ortolan, and they look to be in that particular ship, maybe. Not the ship that we just saw, not Vane's ship, but I'm assuming the big ship that we saw in the concept art. And they're on their adventure. No Jude Law, though, in this shot. It looks like the kids are flying this thing themselves.
Right, yeah, and it suggests maybe that they found a ship that all of a sudden went on autopilot and somehow took off, or they got into something and they don't know how to fly a ship, and now it's going somewhere and they don't really know where it's actually going. So again, it does not appear to be the same cabin as what we had with Jude Law, where he had the captain's chair. So this appears to be a different ship than maybe what his ship is.
That's true. No idea what's going on here. Something gets her attention. This is Gwen's character.
It reminds me of like the tunnel in E.T., right? When they have the house under quarantine and they have everybody running through the tubes. Yeah. That's what it reminds me of, that bag tube looking thing that they connect everywhere for quarantine.
Or if you're a Jaws 3D fan, when they're underwater at SeaWorld and they're in the tunnel, that could be that too.
No one is a Jaws 3 fan.
What? Are you serious? Are there people out there that don't like Jaws 3D? I'm having a hard time to believe that. It's actually not that bad of a movie. And then, I'm kidding, it is.
Consider the source, yeah.
And this is what's his name's character, Robbie Cabot Conyers. So and it's hard to tell, but he's like in a bubble. Like either in a bubble.
I couldn't tell what he was in here.
Yeah. And I almost thought, at one point I thought these were like arms, like he was in some kind of like a bubble exoskeleton,
right?
Droid IG-12 kind of situation, but I don't know. It's almost like an observatory on the ship, right? Like you go up in there as part of the ship and you can kind of look around in space or something. It's really difficult to tell. But
we don't have a baby in a bubble. We have a Ravi in a bubble.
Ravi in a bubble. But he's definitely looking around and like completely enthralled about what's going on around him. The spectacle of space or the atmosphere or wherever the heck they are. There's something really wonderful or spectacular going around because you can tell by the expression on his face here. And then there's the ship that we see. And this shot does not do it justice, but it looks like it's coming into a shipyard. There are other ships around here. It looks like it's about to dock. You know, maybe it's the kids docking the ship. Maybe they've gotten Jude Law at this point, but it looks pretty spot on to the concept art. So I think they did a really good job. I don't know what design this is like. I'm really curious as to like, are they going to give us the origin? You know, is it...
is it Corellian or something else, right?
Yep.
But again, I think just the vibe of this is shipyard, if we want to call it that, or where they're docking, does feel very... I hate to lean everything on pirates because that's about the only thing we really truly know, but it does feel very ragtag. It feels very cobbled together and pieced together that a smuggler ring or a underground kind of grouping that might set up shop, set up camp, has established over time, but is very much like you would expect to see back in the pirate movies with, you know, everything is kind of held together with wire and tape kind of mentality, right? Everything's just kind of pieced together. You've just tied the ropes around to keep everything from floating away. It has very much that feel to it, which I think they really captured it spot on. It's a nice, the modernism of Star Wars to an extent, but also this very cobbled together, thrown together. We just, whatever we had available is what we made work, which I think really captures the spirit of what I think we're getting here pretty well.
Yeah. Do you remember Kragan Gore from Resistance, the Pirates?
No one remembers anything from Resistance, Albert.
Stop it. It's not that bad of a show, but it's not that good of a show either. But it's
right. Fair enough.
But the pirate, remember the pirates? So just all kidding aside, in general, like the pirates, they were kind of like what you talked about. They were kind of piecemealed, and there was a lot of remnants of Empire mixed in with stuff from the Rebellion.
I hadn't thought about that. Even their ship, really had that Star Warsy ship feel, but it also did feel very Pirates of the Caribbean inspired as well. Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
I just wonder how much, if anything, they'll lean into that or kind of what if they
that would be cool if we got some cameos from
like
Resistance,
because they have a whole bunch of pirates from that series that they never really did a whole lot with, and they end up being the good guys at the end in season 2.
Some of them,
right. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so this is, I'm assuming, a mother of one of the children, because later on they show her kind of looking around and she's saying something's wrong, like something's not right.
Now, is this Carrie Condon?
Yes. No, you're right. Carrie Condon is the character. And I didn't know anything about her. She apparently played Friday in Iron Man, the new voice.
Yeah.
but I don't think I've ever. I looked at her IMDb and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen any outside of the voice in Iron Man. I had never seen anything from her, and I know she's established. Like other people love her to death. So
Right. But definitely talking with, potentially the dad character with the,
which is this guy here,
right, with the definitely 70s inspired glasses and
Tyler
some
Perry
sort of
looking.
tunic, the clothing to match.
Yep.
I'm-
He's got
I'm
the
not
serial
sure-
Jeffrey Dahmer glasses going on.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I'm not really sure how I feel about that aesthetic, but I guess people in Star Wars can wear glasses and they can be all sorts of different styles, right?
Yeah.
But again, yeah, definitely they're having this conversation. Something's wrong. They're not coming back. So again, they're kind of uncovering the mystery of what's happening here and trying to piece together what it is they need to go do.
Here's the bubble, I think, or the tunnel that you were talking about.
Right. Yeah.
This could be a tunnel used to bridge two ships together. I was just reading, what do you call it? Heir to the Empire. There was a scene in there where they used one of these things, these kind of plastic tubes that they would extend out and connect to the other ship, and they would float through space and safely walk across. So I don't know, maybe it is that, or who knows, but definitely all in character here. There is a droid in the background there.
Yeah. Some sort of droid in the background.
So I mentioned that we didn't see a droid, and I thought, oh yeah, we actually do see a droid here, but I don't know. It's funny, they have not mentioned anything about this droid, and it just pops up in this. I think this is the only scene they show it in too. So is it a main character? Maybe it's somebody that's letting them. They're leaving one ship, and he was the person that takes them to the exit to go back to their ship. Who knows? Let's see. I don't know what this thing is.
I don't know either. It's almost like wolf-like creature. Again, we're looking kind of down from a hatch into some sort of, I can't even tell if this is a room or what. And then there's a character there, some sort of alien type of species that bipedal, but very difficult to make out what exactly this is. It looks like it might have some fur and kind of longish ears that are pointy.
Yeah. And does not skip leg day because its calves are massive.
That's right.
So yeah, I don't know what this is either. It's really hard. This is just, it feels like it's almost randomly just thrown in there. And then so this is the next couple of shots is the same father figure. There's the quote, I guess someone's saying they're not going to just churn up. I think it's the mother that's saying that. So
Right.
Carrie Condon's character.
And again, the aesthetic here is very much like Andor when we go see Kirill or Cyril's mom, like the very 70s federal building inspired kind of design elements.
Yeah. Now I'm showing all four of these shots, these scenes kind of happen one after another. And it looks like he's allegedly maybe trying to find evidence where the kids are. And so he's doing something he probably shouldn't be doing because he's looking over at this droid here in the background. The droid's kind of eyeballing him, wondering what he's doing. I would assume
Droid's
he
probably
has-
wondering, why are you using an Apple IIe when we have like this really modern terminal?
Right, there you go. Yeah. Again, yeah, you're right. Like all the aesthetics of this just scream like 70s, 80s
Yeah.
movies, which I'm going to love. I'm actually
This is
excited.
starting to feel like war games in some ways, right?
He's got a ring on his finger. He's married. So yeah, so he's like he feels like he's under pressure, under duress, trying to get some kind of information when he shouldn't be here, trying to find more information about where the kids potentially have gone, maybe where the ship was going, what course it had, don't know. And then this is the kids, and again, it's hard to tell, but you can see the kids in the bottom down there, bottom left-hand side. They're kind of running through a market, so maybe on a planet that we've already seen established somewhere in this little teaser, but they seem to be running for their lives or running through this market area of sorts. And next shot. I forget who says this. Someone says we need to find them.
Right.
So still in search of the kids. Someone with curled-toed shoes is picking up a blaster that's on the ground, and they cut over to, I think this is where they cut to Bane.
Right.
Any reason to think they cut these shots back to back, but we don't see, it's not one shot that kind of pans up and it's Vane. It's like someone's picking up the blaster and they cut, and next thing you know, it's Vane's face. Safe to assume that's the same person.
It might be even the same scene at the very least, right? It could be, again, with the market where the kids were at, this could be very much of, this is where they start to bump into trouble. It's been kind of an innocuous adventure so far, but as they land and as they start to move around a little bit more, again, they start to encounter characters that they're not really sure how to judge them. and they're having to learn it. And some of them are less than savory, like Vane, because this guy is not a good guy. I mean, he wanted to go drink in a school and shoot people up. So going to go
Yeah.
ahead and say probably does not have a heart of gold.
No, definitely does not have one. I don't know where his role is. Curious. Like, is he just after the treasure? Does he get wind of it? Does he want in on the spoils or take it from the children? I mean, that's, again, feels cliche, but hey, you know what? I'd be down.
Yeah, and again, it's where do we pick up with Vane too, right? I mean, so Gorian Shard is dead. All of Gorian Shard's crew, at least on that ship, were dead. Vane is potentially just the last one. So does this pick up more or less after he's escaped the Mandalorian in that scenario, or does this pick up some other time to where he's been on the run and just kind of bouncing places to place, or just happenstance? He just happens to be in a bar and starts, like you said, overhearing what's going on, starts to catch wind that maybe there's a treasure. He needs a score because he's kind of down on his luck or whatever it might be, and he needs to get reacclimated and kind of get his swagger back to in a sense.
Yeah. Or he's trying to vie for potentially taking over as the Pirate King, right? So this is the concerned mother look. Nothing really going on here other than she looked concerned. This ship looks like it's got 20 engines and it doesn't. It's just the motion blur of the terrible image that we have.
Right.
But yeah, this is a different ship coming in. Is this Vane ship? Is this the same one here?
I don't think so, because it
couldn't
seems
make out what it
more.
was.
It seems a little wider, but it also looks like a city down below, like a
Yeah, town.
suburban city with
Suburban town. Right.
laid out in
ET's
blocks,
land,
right?
where
Yeah,
ET lives.
it looks like every American suburb, basically.
Yep. That's kind of cool. So it's just flying in. Now, this one is, I think these next couple of shots is where a lot of video cuts out. So we got some extra stuff here. I'm going to call this.
So
But
this
I
is
call this the.
This is the droid from Star Tours, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same model. I think we saw it show up in The Mandalorian.
Right.
And maybe twice, I think. It was in Garza Whip's Cantina, I think, was there. And then later on, and most recently in this last season, I think. Oh, no, it was in Book of Boba Fett. But then in Mandalorian, I think when they went to the droid parlor or whatever that was,
Right.
that whole episode, we saw another one here. But this looks like a bus. Like, it looks like he's the bus driver driving the kids home. You can see them clearly in the back there.
That would make sense.
And that would track right with that droid from Star
Right.
Tours. So, and I don't know what this dude is. He's like a mutant, like what do you call him?
It's like a really extra ugly Ugnaught.
Ugnaught. I was gonna say mutant Ugnaught. That's what I was trying to think.
Yeah.
I almost called him Unkar Plot, but no. I don't know what he. Maybe he's a bounty hunter, someone that was hired. He's doesn't look very nice. He's like walking around looking. I'm assuming like for the kids, like he's after them or something. That's
Right.
the vibe I was picking up. I called him Leprosy Thug because he does look like he's got suffering from leprosy. And this one's interesting. So, and this is where definitely I know most of the footage cuts out. So this is kind of like bonus footage. This is a skeleton on what looks to be the floor of a ship. And so I started thinking about this, like, how did they get the name Skeleton Crew? And I thought, well, maybe whatever ship they find, or maybe the map takes them to the ship that's been buried somewhere hidden for whatever reason. And when they get in there, there is a literal crew of skeletons because the crew just died in this ship. And that's where we get the title. Maybe this is one of the shots where they see, one of those crew members from long ago. Maybe this ship is really old. Maybe it's like pre, the Old Republic era type stuff or whatever. But
It's very reminiscent of the serials as well. Like we think Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, right? So Indiana Jones and the Skeleton Crew.
right.
I mean, things like that like, really do fit in, right? So you have this ragtag crew or these ragtag kids, and they meet up with this Jedi, but you stumble over the Skeleton Crew, and they have some sort of secret that they unveil to you as to what happened, or they don't know what happened, but there's some MacGuffin type of situation going on where there's maybe the tapestry plays into this, and this is where they get some of that.
Yeah.
And so it's this mystery of the Skeleton Crew that they start to unwind and resolve, or want to solve the puzzle. And that's kind of where the adventure part of it begins, as far as what are they trying to pursue.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last shot is this shot here. Right. So I called this Alpha 5. So if you're a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, it looks like a domed R2 unit droid, maybe the head part of it, like just the dome piece of it only. I'm assuming this is a droid teaching school, like Like there's a star map in the background.
Yeah,
Maybe it's one of the instructors at the schools who are kind of flashing back to footage or whatever, but it's hard to tell. But it definitely looks like a droid in front of a star map of some sort.
I agree. That's kind of where I was going with it too.
Yeah. And that's where it ends, and it like ends abruptly. So like we have nothing after that. It's over. So
Right.
was there more? Yes, I think there was some footage shown of Jude Law allegedly using the Force. I think that's how the way I understood it when it was being described was it ended with that kind of moment, like as a whoa, like he's a Jedi, or man, there's more to him than we thought. Because outside of the promo shots that we shot, the stuff at the very beginning of this, he's not in the trailer at
Exactly.
all until the very end when the big reveal of him coming out and allegedly using the Force. So, well, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, this is, we'll see. This is maybe coming out towards the end of the year. We'll talk a little bit more about that this weekend with some of the news we've got. But so clearly, still a lot of what we saw is probably very early on in the season or in the series, or however we want to frame that up.
Yeah.
Which I think makes sense for what we usually see in these types of teasers. It's usually early stuff, things that doesn't require a lot of actual finished product to be able to assemble from a CGI and everything else perspective. But again, so getting a flavor for what we can expect. A lot of questions are open about what exactly is the skeleton crew. Is it the kids? Is it what they found? What is it they found? What is it they're doing? How do they find? I mean, there's still way more questions than answers at this point. But there's little flavors, especially if you're a fan of this era of TV and movies in particular. There's going to be a lot here. It's going to be a very different, feel for Star Wars, I think, in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But also you're seeing the connected tissue with Mandalorian in different ways, besides just Vane showing up. But there are things that do feel familiar that I think we'll be able to tie in, even though visually and kind of storytelling wise, it might be a little different flavor for a little while as we kind of get accustomed to it, especially maybe with where these kids are going to school and some of those aesthetics. Very similar to how we had to get a little bit of adjusted to what we were seeing in Andor as well.
Right.
So it's just a different part of the galaxy that we're exploring for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about this. I have to admit, like there's so many things aesthetically that just hark back to my childhood and watching the Amblin movies, growing up in that era and what things were like. And it's hard for me. Like I'm trying to go in with this and be critical of it, but I'm already all sappy over this series. So if it sucks, I'm still going to love it. I already know myself. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. Honestly, it looks like it's going to have a lot of the stuff that, when I think about Star Wars and television and again, all those old memories, everything seems to be here. And especially the Goonies, my goodness, like that was such a influential and pivotal movie for me growing up as a kid that if they even get, capture just a smidgen of the spirit of that movie, I think I'll be pretty happy with it. So.
Yeah. And in looking even further on, it's like, okay, what elements of this are retained within later projects in this universe as we start to get towards quote unquote heir to the empire with Filoni's movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
What elements of this series are going to be the ones that we carry forward? Is it just a Jude Law type of character? Or is it the kids and Jude Law? Or is it some, mix and match of all of this stuff too? So this will be something to be really interesting to watch and see develop. And as we get into the series and start to do our breakdowns of it, be able to speculate a bit about, okay, how is all this stuff going to come back around and fit together within the general time frame that we're operating in?
Yeah, it almost feels like a standalone right now because we just don't know enough about it, right? Like I think this is what you're saying. Like where right now it does feel like it could just be out there and it's a Star Wars story and it's got Star Wars characters and Star Wars themes and sound effects and special effects. But at the end of the day, how does it tie into the larger narrative of all? And I'm sure there is that we know it exists because they've already come out and said it.
Right.
But until we get into the either more substantial trailers or the episodes themselves, that's all to be determined. So it would be kind of reckless of us to kind of speculate on that. But hey, you know what? If it's a slow summer, you may just get that. So,
I mean, that's the thing. It's mid-May, and this thing might still have another 6 months or so before we see it on screen, maybe longer.
November, December.
Yes, I mean, this is going to be a thing where we may not really get a whole lot more concrete, at least from a trailer perspective, until the fall. I mean, until maybe after Ahsoka is done.
Mm-hmm.
So that media marketing machine, it might be kind of slow going. It might just be, it's still dependent on these little tidbits of interviews that come out or on any kind of magazine articles that get written a little bit later on in anticipation of some of these series.
Just to keep the pulse alive.
Yeah, again. And again, we don't expect any any negative impact from like WGA impacting this series, because largely it's been, we presume it's been mostly filmed,
Right.
probably mostly in post-production now, but if there's any reshoots, we'll have to see if that has any effect on it. But right now, nothing is suggesting that this project is in any kind of delay or risk of being delayed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
All right. Well, that was cool. That was fun. Nice little jaunt down a teaser. And look, you said we couldn't do it. We turned it to a whole hour and 10 minutes. Huh?
I have faith in you when it comes to this kind of thing.
When it comes to talking, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, you just got a full breakdown, and hopefully you're as excited about it as maybe us. I don't know. Jonesy's hard to read sometimes, but
Well, there's just not a lot here. I'll be frank with you. Am I excited about this series? Less so, just because I don't know what it is we're getting at all. And so I anticipate I will get more enthusiastic about this as it goes. But right now I'm just kind of in this confused state, and they've not really and again, it's really early on, to be fair, to where they would give you much of it. But
right.
we're in a different position with Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, all of these other series that in Bad Batch, all these other series that we get, Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's some amount of knowledge that we have going in to where we can draw where they've come from to know where they might be going, as well as other things that we get. And this one is just, like you said, this one just feels very, it could really stand alone by itself right now entirely.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be attached to anything, even if you get cameos or quote unquote cameos from other characters from other places. Right now, we don't have that connective tissue. But again, super early on, so I'm sure my perspective on this is going to change. I'm usually a slow, I warm up to things a little bit slow at this stage. So this is just me, I think.
Yes.
You guys get all of this. You're welcome.
Yep, this is what you're paying for right here. Get a good look at it, man.
We're gonna lose so many Patreon members.
I know. This is ridiculous. We're shedding them as we speak. So
Right.
Okay, so before we lose any more, do you want to kind of give some shout outs so we can get out of here?
Yeah, absolute thank you to all of our Patreon members. We really do appreciate it, especially Mike, Lauren, Dante, Risk, Justin, Jackson, Sharkman, Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh, Jacob, Steve, Rita Reborn, and of course Rod, CJ, and Alex. Everyone, thank you so much. No matter what tier you're at, we appreciate all your support. Just downloading the show and listening to us really does mean the world to us. We certainly appreciate it, and we hope you're enjoying the content. So we hope to see more of you. Please go out to the Patreon, download the Patreon app, please, and interact with us there. We're trying to be really good at posting most days and having something out there, little teasers for what's coming up, and like Tatooine trading post, things that are coming up. Albert had a nice Five Below find recently too.
Oh man,
where he
I
posted
cleaned
some
up
stuff.
at that place. I'm telling you right now.
So just fun stuff. We hope you come out there and look at some of that content, enjoy it, but download the app so you don't miss a beat on that one, unless you're doing it to the computer, but you don't always get it if you're just subscribing to the RSS feed. So
yeah.
Anyway, we'd love to have you out there. We're having a great time, and you and I are having fun posting stuff when we do. So hopefully other folks are enjoying it too. Yeah.
Okay. We'll end the show there. We're going to be back in 2 days because this show got rescheduled. So we'll be back in 2 days for Tatooine Trader Post, and we'll break down the next 3, 4, 5, and 6, I guess, respectively, Vision Season 2. So that should be a lot of fun because there's some really good gems in there. There's one really good gem in there that we'll talk about. So join us here Thursday night, started at 9 p.m. for those 2 shows, and then again we'll be back on Sunday to do our Patreon spotlight and the Way Station once again, and talk about all the news that happened this week. And in top of all of the people that, in addition to the people that Jonesy mentioned, we've got other people that support the show. Your names are in the credits, so if you're watching the video, you'll get to see your name here. But again, thanks to all of you for your patronage and your support, and we'll see you guys here in just a few days.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.